everybody. I'm Jay. He's Maddie. This is Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk. Today we're going to talk some football. And first, Maddie, let's talk about your Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones valuing the Cowboys at $10 billion. How many do you think the Jones family has, though? Because there's this thing in the U.S. called the inheritance tax, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is going to kill Mark Davis. When Mark Davis's mom dies, I'm not sure what's going to happen because the inheritance tax is so when Jerry dies and passes this on to Steven, and let's say they value, just for the point of argument, the Cowboys at $10 billion, Steven Jones has to give the U.S. government $5 billion in tax.
Yeah, but also if Jerry Jones hands it over to Steven Jones before he dies,
doesn't matter.
Steven Jones buys it off Jerry Jones for $1 billion.
Okay, well that would be something, but yes,
which is what they do. That's what they do. They'd buy it. They'd make sure that Steven Jones buys it off Jerry Jones for like next to nothing when we're talking about American football, like just enough to make it a bit less shady, but not enough for it to actually do anything. And it's all of their money anyway. And Steven Jones just buys all of his businesses from him. Then
do you think they are worth $10 billion?
Yeah, they can make $10 billion. The Dallas Cowboys can make $10 billion pretty
quick. Relative to whatever somebody's willing to pay for something is what it's worth, correct? Yeah. So what does a person with endless amounts of money willing to spend to own an NFL team, let alone one of the ones who are marketed better than a lot of them, right? So I don't know. I think you could get $10 billion for him from the right investor. Would
I think they could get more. I think the Dallas Cowboys are worth $10 billion.
And then I do know that the only where it comes in weird is that I think the NFL makes you have to have 50% of it liquid cash, right? So to buy it. So who has $5 billion in liquid cash, which is really weird to me because they're just arbitrary numbers on a computer if you really get into what money is nowadays. But what would Jeff Bezos, if he really wanted to own a team? I don't know if he would. What would he pay? What would Gary pay for a team, right? You know, like there's guys out there who would pay a ton of money for a team. So they're worth whatever somebody's willing to spend on them.
Yeah, I love those Jeff Bezos rumors linking them to the Washington Commanders. I think that's a perfect place to start if Jeff Bezos really does want a football team. Look, it's $10 billion, and it's when you're gonna make your money back. So how much money do you have to plow into an American football team? How much money are you making every year? And the Dallas Cowboys do make money every year. It's not like if you buy a soccer team, or like if you buy Man United, if you buy Liverpool, if you buy especially Chelsea, a lot of the times you're not really making loads of money on that until you sell it on again. So if you've been successful and you've built up the club, but the club actually drains you of funds, like a lot of these Premier League clubs are in a ridiculous amount of debt. So it's not until you sell it do you actually make it back. But with the way that American football's run, with salary caps and the amount of money that you make from TV deals and those kind of things, the Dallas Cowboys can make back $5 billion pretty quickly.
And then, but see, for me, I think a lot of the guys who are buying these teams, like, because they're saying the Broncos going to start at a minimum of $5 billion for the bids and whatever. But okay, so you're selling the Cowboys. Somebody like Gary V wants it, or somebody
Gary V's New York Jets through. That's the only team he wants.
Yeah, I think you give him I think that they'd let him in the NFL, he'd jump in, but that's just me. And then, but if you're one of so the guy, I forget his name, but one of the Walton family, Sam's Club, Walmart, his family, is bidding on the Broncos. But if he doesn't get it, I think I read somewhere where this dude's worth like $180 billion, right? Like, so does he give a shit if he makes his money back? There's probably some of those people who just want the team and have so much money, they don't even care if they make their money back.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say. Like the old owner of Chelsea, Roman Abramovich, was like Vladimir Putin's right-hand man. And he's bought Chelsea and just went, he basically went, I'm not going to make any money on Chelsea Football Club. I want to win trophies. This is my like baby, and I just want to plow money into it. But the thing is with that, Jerry Jones has made a shit ton of money from owning the Dallas Cowboys. That like Jerry Jones has turned the Dallas Cowboys
for 176 million.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Dallas Cowboys are a different buy to a lot of teams because of the amount of money. They're the most valuable sports team on the planet. I think the amount of money you're able to make from the Dallas Cowboys. But I think the type of owner that every fan wants is the owner that has a ridiculous amount of money, so much money that it doesn't matter to them what they spend on this football team. Like Cincinnati's owners aren't like that.
No, Carolina has an owner like that, but he seems way too impatient. But okay.
Yeah, he's different. But like Cincinnati's owners aren't like that. They give too much of a shit about the bottom line and those kind of things. You don't want that.
There's fan bases like you and I cannot complain about what our owners are willing to spend. Yeah. Cincinnati now they can complain, right? You know what I mean? Buffalo's got a little bit of a complaint on what their owner was willing to spend, but he seems to have got better. There's owners that'll pay anything to win, and then there's owners who are worried about the bottom line. I don't think Mr. Kraft over in New England really cares about what it cost him to win Super Bowls.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Whereas the Glazers at Tampa, they do give a shit about how much it costs them to win Premier League titles and Super Bowls. So it's like, yeah. The Cowboys are worth. I'd say the Cowboys are definitely worth 10 billion. You can make 10 billion back from owning the Cowboys. I would say Jerry Jones isn't ever going to sell the Cowboys until he's legitimately on his deathbed, and he sells it to Steven for next to no money to avoid inheritance tax.
Yeah, they're cracking down on that too. That he might, if they don't do it soon, he might not be able to get around it. So this is not a shot at Maddie, and everybody who I play this clip is going to think it's a shot at Maddie, but remember, he's British, so this is definitely not a shot at him. But I keep going round and round, and there's this myth about a sports writer in Denver or in Dallas deeming the Dallas Cowboys America's team. That is not where it came from. It started in 1976. It was first offered to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so I can quit arguing with people. Just watch our boy Dave Wanstedt talk a little.
When I was the defense coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, we were just getting it going, and Coach Noel, the coach of the Steelers, retired. I was one of the guys that they called in to talk to about the job. I'm going in there and I'm talking about America's team and the Dallas Cowboys. And Dan Rooney, who was interviewing me, he said, "Stop right there." He says, "Let me tell you a little story about America's team." He said, in 1976, us Steelers, we beat the Dallas Cowboys in Super Bowl 10. And my dad, the chief, as they called him, Pete Rozelle was the commissioner. He calls up my dad and says, "We're making our highlight tape. We want to name the Steelers America's team. That's going to be our caption." He says, the chief, he always had a cigar. He said he took a puff of that cigar and he said, "Pete, let me tell you something. We are not America's team. We are the Pittsburgh Steelers." Tex Schramm took that from Dallas and ran with it ever since.
I am not shitting on the Cowboys fans. Call yourselves the Americans team. Just quit arguing about where it came from. That's my whole argument in this whole thing. It drives me insane. And yes, they got a huge fan base, so that's not even me shitting on them. I'm just sick of being in the same argument, so I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, and I mean, they are now America's team, but I knew that story as well, like about that. I've seen that. I've seen clips around that and things like that. America's team always makes me and my dad. My dad's the person who first started supporting the Cowboys. They won their last championship before I was born, so he was the glory supporter, and then I'm doing it for the family because I've never seen them go to an NFC championship game. But the Americas team makes us feel like dead uncomfortable. And then he supports Man United as well, who are like the most worldwide thing. But we're not like that. It's so strange. But yeah, they are America's team now. They're the most valuable team in the entire world. And they do have the biggest fan base around the world. And that's what makes them America's team. Colin Cowherd was in that clip looking ridiculously young, which was very strange. He somehow looked older and younger at the same time in that clip.
I'm going to be
Which is
honest
weird.
with you. I have not seen Colin Cowherd speak in over a year, maybe two. Not a clip. If he's on it, I turn it off. I can't stand him. He got so ridiculous during the pandemic on his stance about Tom Brady's finished, Aaron Rodgers sucks. Like, I couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, you become so ridiculous, I can't watch you. And he banged the table for Sam Darnold for 2 years.
I like to see how the other half think, you know? I like to see the extremes of every side. I'm like Chris Sims, PFF on one side, and then Colin Cowherd, Skip Bayless on the other. That's why
I can't do Skip and Stephen A anymore. Like, I don't mind Shannon Sharp that much, but like, I can't. I'm over the arguing. You know what I mean? I'm over the arguing TV. Give me NFL Live and stuff. Like, give me. I'm not even a Florio fan, but give me Florio and Sims. Give me Peter King. I don't want arguing.
Yeah, like NBC have got it right on that kind of thing. I think like Nick Wright and Chris Broussard, and like at least they're going at it, kind of bantering as friends. They're not like just smashing each other's points.
I don't mind
needlessly. Right. Yeah, like they're needlessly disagreeing with each other. Like when Luka Doncic came out and beat the it's basketball, not my wheelhouse. I like the Mavs. I like Luka Doncic, but who did they just beat?
The Heat.
No, the Suns. The Suns. Yeah. So Luka Doncic and the Mavs just beat the Suns.
Yeah.
The Heat just when he came out, Nick Wright was saying, do you admit that I was right? Do you admit that I was right? And Chris Broussard was just like, yeah, I admit it, you were right. But like Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp just have these disagreements over Tom Brady, and they just continue to disagree because that's the only way that they get viewers. I fucking hate that. You'll notice that me and Jay are a lot more collaborative than other talking heads.
Yeah, because you reminded me that's the same series where Lil Wayne said Luka's a hoe.
Luka Doncic is class, and anybody who says any different is just wrong. I love Luka Doncic.
I enjoy watching him play. I think he's a monster. So
yeah.
All right, Maddie, we're going to get to some grading at some point here in the offseason before it comes of the draft. I've been watching a lot of the behind-the-scenes videos from every team I can find on YouTube, not just the Vikings. And I will say, Vikings fans, you will hear some irritation from me about the trades, and it's not the trade in general, it's who we traded with. But I will say, go watch these behind-the-scene things. At almost everyone I've watched, every draft room was saying the sweet spot of the draft was between pick 30 and 80. So if your team's made some moves, it might and went back, maybe you won't be as upset if you go listen to the rationale on why a lot of these teams thought the biggest value for the meat in the draft was picks 30 through 80.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's just there was very few standout players. Like there wasn't a Micah Parsons who we're going to go on to. There wasn't a Trevor Lawrence. There's not that there wasn't those guys that are just absolutely standout players. So the best place to take them, if you can get loads of picks, is at the end of the first, start of the second, every single time, because you're not then hit with the hype. However, if you are able to make a move and take the best players in the draft, this would be a perfect time. That would be a perfect time to do it, just to be able to take those best players in the draft. And I think the teams that really won this year were the teams that traded back, but were also the teams who traded for premier players and then were able to wait till the third round and stuff and take like running backs that are definitely going to start or guards that are definitely going to start.
We'll get to the Bills and how I'm impressed with their running back pick, how they got Cook where they got him. Now, we won't get into it right now, how he's not his brother, but he does a lot of really, really good things. And
yeah, definitely. And like you have the Rams who pick a 30 who just fill out their roster with like low value positions, but the best players at those low value positions. And you have the Raiders had a pretty good draft as well. Like if you look at the actual picks they made where you pick them, even though they didn't have a first round or a second round pick. You know, I'm a fuck those picks kind of guy, and then just fill up your
draft. And we'll give you a couple teams who had a good draft, even though the talking heads say they didn't, and we'll give you our reasons. Maddie, we are going to talk about PFF's top players under 25. But before we do that, here's a quick word from the Yankee and the Brit. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Jay from Yankee and the Brit telling you to come over and check out our shows. The Yankee and the Brit Sports Talk, Well Beyond the Arc, the Markout Podcast, Flagrant and Foul, Real Talk with Jay, and MMA Underground Weekly at YouTube.com/The Yankee and the Brit. Deuces. And feel free to go check out the new Flagrant and Foul. We just reviewed Ozark, and we went so off track, but we got back on it by the end of the show. So it was a good time. You have to check that out.
That doesn't sound like you guys.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you put two guys who have known each other since 5th grade on a podcast together, and then it gets so in left field. But, Maddie, I'm just going to say we could argue, he should be 12th and he should be 11th, right? Or that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm looking at. I was looking at egregious shit that I was like, really? And they start with Trayvon Diggs at 25 and Kyle Pitts at 24. I know they're big names and they both balled out. I don't have a huge problem with it. Could we argue higher or lower? Sure. But like, I would probably go a little higher, but I'm not going to argue these two at where they're at.
Yeah, I think Trayvon Diggs, I would personally have Trayvon Diggs higher, and Kyle Pitts. I'm very high on both of them at the start of the season. I think Kyle Pitts is going to have a breakout year. Trayvon Diggs needs to show that he can cover as well as intercept. So I'm not too bothered about them having him 25th. I know that PFF are quite low on Trayvon Diggs because of the fact that he gets burnt so often. He gave up the most yards in the NFL.
That was just my argument that he gets burned too much sometimes, but he's going to get better.
That's because he's taking risks. That's because he's under 25 and hasn't played enough games, though. That's a different.
I think Kyle Pitts might have a regression year with their quarterbacks in Atlanta, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think Kyle Pitts will have a breakout year, but that doesn't mean he's going to get as many yards as he did this year because of his quarterback situation. But Marcus Mariota loves throwing to the tight ends, so depends if they're going to play Ridder or not. Hopefully not. They'll play Marcus Mariota.
Well, 23 is where I have the first big problem of this whole list. And how the hell is Devin White at 23? This guy is a monster. And I can go through this list and name a bunch of guys I would put him in front of. So this is my first problem with that. I think Devin White is way too low.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're doing with the defensive players in a lot of this draft. Like, I love PFF, I love what they do, and when you read through the reasons that they give and that kind of stuff, it's very understandable. And I think what's happened here is they've lowballed the linebacker position, which to me is an absolute crime. Because the linebackers are some of the hearts of the defense for me. But Devin White's an awesome player. He holds a Super Bowl winning defense together a lot of the time. Like he's really that guy who holds them together. And yeah, I love Devin White. I don't know why he's that low either.
Hey, Maddie, just a little teaser. Then you're gonna love one of the Vikings picks because he'll slightly remind you of a guy you really like at linebacker. Yeah, I get they're doing that with the linebackers, but like Devin White is a pass rusher too. You know what I mean? He's not just some fill some gap linebacker. And if you got a 72.5 rusher grade, like what are we even talking about? Because you have Quentin Williams right above him, but Quentin Williams had 2.5 sacks in his first season. Like, is this really what just right there, I have the problem. How is Quentin, and it's got to be what you said about linebacker, because how is Quentin Williams, who has the potential to be great, but is not on a great team right now, really shine going to be against the guy who balled out and helped them get to a Super Bowl? You know what I mean?
Yeah, from listening to the PFF podcast, a lot of what they say is there's a difference, not in their grading system, but in the way that they personally perceive pass rushing if you're blitzing to if you're hands in the ground. And they say the hands in the ground allows the blitz. But I'd say Devin White can go toe-to-toe with most offensive linemen. So I'm not entirely sure about that. Like, I understand why they've done it, but I love linebackers, so I'd grade all the linebackers higher. So a little.
Did you have
got a real issue with some linebacker placements in this?
You okay with Quinton Williams at 22? Like,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with him at 22. I just have a problem with that they have Devin White behind him.
Yeah, Quentin Williams could show us more, but he's also on the Jets, so I'm not going to rail him too much for that. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure about Trevor Lawrence at 21.
I'd take
really
it's the position, right? Because if you ask me who played better so far, Devin White or
Trayvon Diggs,
Lawrence, but it's that Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback. We've all seen what he could do in college, and I think if you don't see, I think we're going to see the best of him with Doug Peterson and the coaching staff he has now. And I think he was a victim of the whole Urban Meyer thing in Duval.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's shit. He just hasn't really shown us anything. So is this based on? If it's based on potential, then great. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, awesome. Have him higher if it's based on potential. But I think what they've done is got a weird mix between potential and what they're doing right now. And Trevor Lawrence, he didn't show us anything that showed us he was going to be particularly good. It wasn't like Joe Burrow's first season where the Bengals were still terrible before they mildly fixed our offensive line, but you could see that Joe Burrow had it. Like, Trevor Lawrence just didn't look like he had anything. And I'm not but I'm expecting a second-year jump from Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence didn't perform anywhere near the best out of any of the quarterbacks in his draft class, is the main issue that I have.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think they just did it because of the position he plays. I think that had a lot to do with it too, with what they think he will be. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's what they think he will be. But Mac Jones isn't on here, who had a better season than him. Who are the other quarterbacks in his draft class? I suppose Justin Fields had a very similar issue. Trey Lance didn't play, so it would just be Mac Jones. Davis Mills had a better season than Trevor Lawrence. So I don't think you could put Davis Mills on here, but yeah.
Well, at 20, I have another problem with Patrick Surtain being at 20. And I think he's too low. I think he should be higher than 20. I think he was one of the best young corners in the NFL right now.
Yeah, he's better than Anton Winfield, who's higher than him. Creed Humphrey's awesome, but he's a center. Brian Burns, he's better than him.
You know I'm a T. Higgins fan, right? I mean, we've talked about this. Him. I think he's shown. Who would you rather have if you're on the field? Would you rather have T. Higgins as your wide receiver, or who would you bet on? T. Higgins as a wide receiver or Patrick Surtain on one play to win that battle? I'm taking Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, and the highest corner in the draft is AJ Tyrell of the Atlanta Falcons. Patrick Surtain is better than AJ Tyrell.
I don't know. I like AJ. I really do.
I like them both. If you had both of them on the same team, but Patrick Surtain has had 1 year in the NFL and he's better.
Well, see, that's why I don't agree that he's better yet. I think he has the potential, but if you ask me right now, which one's better?
So we come back to this bit. This list is a weird amount. Yeah. I like the list. I have very few problems with the list. We're just picking up on the problems that we do have. And it's a weird amalgamation of potential and what they're doing right now. I would rather have Patrick Surtain than DK Metcalf on my team.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I'm okay with T. Higgins being in the top 25 of this list. I don't know. He's a good receiver, but when it comes to like young top receivers, do you think of him when you think of Chase or CeeDee Lamb or Justin Jefferson? I don't put him in that same category.
Yeah, like how much higher is he in terms of tight end than Kyle Pitts? Like
Yeah, that's a
how
good
much
point
higher
too.
is he?
Because if it's potential, Kyle Pitts has way more
Yeah,
potential than T. Higgins.
we're already at T. Higgins' ceiling, which isn't a bad thing. Like peak years for a lot of players is 24, 25, 26, 27. Like this is where you should be showing your peak. But I'm just kind of sat here like, right, okay, T. Higgins. I'm not so sure he should be in this list. And I'd rather have Patrick Surtain than Anton Winfield. I'd rather have him than AJ Terrell. I just think Patrick Surtain is like stick him on an island. He's the one. Like he's the best corner in that. He was one of the best defensive players coming out of that draft class, and he's only had 1 year in the NFL.
I would say that for me, I think Antoine Winfield should be above him. He's already the leader of that back end. He's calling plays. He's one of the best young safeties in football. But I don't have a problem with it because I'm a big fan of Patrick Surtain too. So I'm not shitting on him in the thing. But I'm
In
okay
terms
with
of
Winfield at 18. I'd argue him higher, but I'm not mad at 18.
yeah, it then comes to the value of position as well. So if we're
And then that
crucifying
comes
linebackers,
to your defense too, because safeties are less important in some
yeah,
defenses than others. They're the anchor in some defenses. So it all becomes relative to the scheme too. So it is a weird way to do a list.
yeah, it's just if we're crucifying the linebackers, then cornerback should be above safety. And especially with
But-
PFF. PFF are very firm believers in draft loads of cornerbacks, get loads of edge rushers, and then just the rest of them just fill out from there.
In
So
that Tampa 2, though, in that Tampa 2 defense, safety's hugely important. Back like when John Lynch used to play, it's kind of similar. So I get why they give you would give Antonio Winfield more value than a safety on a team. You know what I mean? That plays a different style of defense where the safety is not really as important.
oh no, yeah, I get it. It's just I think a guy, a corner who can lock down one side of the field and has shown that he's able to do that in his first year in the NFL is more valuable than a safety. But Anton Winfield is one of the best safeties in the NFL, and he's under 25.
Right,
So
but when you play a
I have
cover
no problem
two,
with it.
that's all I was saying is when you play a cover
Yeah.
two, your corners are less important because you're always playing off and they're always looking at the quarterback. Where a man-to-man team, which is what Surtain was playing, is a harder position for corner. So it's
I just think that like Surtain could be.
I don't know what to feel about CeeDee Lamb because I probably think he should be higher than this, but I'm not going to cry. I mean, some of these guys, they're just not as flashy at names, but it's really hard because when you think of these lists, you start to think of these skill players right away, and you're like, well, CeeDee Lamb scores touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like, so it's hard to like place them in the same category as an offensive lineman or or a fullback, that kind of stuff. It's weird to rate them.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb at 17, I have no problem with. Needs to show more going into his his second or third season in the NFL now. Needs to show more. Like needs to become the number one receiver, especially without Amari Cooper there. I have no problem because he's shown flashes of being Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, but he's also dropped loads of big time balls. Doesn't have the same connection with Dak as Amari Cooper did. Just needs to show a little bit more.
Doesn't have as good of a quarterback as Chase and Jefferson. Yeah. That's my weekly shade on Dak moment. All right.
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
Moving on. Center Creed Humphreys. He's a good center. I can never argue protecting your quarterback. Center calls the play or calls the adjustments at the line. Very important position. I'm cool with Creed Humphreys at 16.
Yeah, center is one of the most underrated positions in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys were the best when they had Travis Fredericks, and Creed Humphrey is possibly the best center in the NFL. Or will be. The potential to be the best center in the NFL.
So, Brian Burns at 15 is
ridiculous.
I just don't get it. Like, I can go back in this list, and we can start moving up. Surtain, and I would even we can move up Devin White. We can move up Kyle Pitts. You know what I mean? We can move. I would trade Trayvon Diggs over him in a heartbeat.
I'd take every single player on this list over Brian Burns.
Okay, there you go.
And we could name a few. There'll be a few more players that are under 25 before I even think of the name Brian Burns.
Yeah,
could be on this team. That like.
And he's not bad. He's had some pretty good seasons, but
7.5 sacks, 9 sacks, and 9 sacks. Like not terrible.
Good. That's your number.
It's not terrible. Rusher. Yeah,
but why is your number 2 on the top 25?
Yeah, on the that is a solid second best defensive lineman on the team.
Yes, yeah.
I would love that kind of production on my team. It'd be great. That's Randy Gregory for the Dallas Cowboys last season. Randy Gregory might have had a few more, but it's around Randy Gregory for the Dallas Cowboys last season. And I loved Randy Gregory. It was great. Brian Burns is not the 15th best player under 25 in this league.
Hey, that was Everson Griffin for fucking 5 or 6 years in a row for the Vikings. You love it. You love him.
Yeah.
But he's still not like going to be on the top 25 list of anything.
Yeah, it's like Mac Jones should be on this top 25 list before Brian Burns. There are loads of other players that we
Davis Mills should be on this list before Burns.
Davis Mills, yeah. I'm trying to think of young receivers. It's receivers that are really getting shafted by this because the receivers at the minute under the age of 25 are absolutely incredible. Devontae Smith might have a case to say that he could be above Brian Burns in this list. Yeah. Michael Pittman, Indianapolis Colts, be above him on this list. Sorry, Carolina fans. It's just solid production. It is brilliantly solid production. Really good. Keep him. He's class.
And he'll be in the NFL for the next 10 years if he keeps those numbers.
Yeah. Getting paid good money. Like, he's good.
Yeah.
But 15th? He's Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah.
All right.
Rashawn Slater, I'm cool with that 14. I think he is one of the better young offensive tackles in the league. I got no argument. It's hard. Offensive tackles are never going to get slated higher than certain skill position guys. It's just the way it is. I'm good with Slater at 14.
Yeah, I would smash Slater up this list. Is Tristan Wirfs 10 picks better than Rashawn Slater? I'm not 100%. I'm not saying that he's worse. I'm not saying Tristan Wirfs is worse than Rashawn Slater. Rashawn Slater's had less time in the league. Tristan Wirfs has shown it. He's Tom Brady's guy. I think we could have Rashawn Slater a lot higher than that, but I have no problem with him.
You think it's because he's got more time in the league, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's because he's shown it more. But I would have Rashawn Slater higher. He protects your quarterback. That's all you need to say.
Chase Young is one of the best young edge rushers in the NFL. I freaking love this guy. His motor is amazing, and I'm cool with him at 13.
Yeah, he had a shitty season last season. So I think he would be way higher if he kept up his first season. He would be way higher, but he had a shitty season.
Yeah, and it's the Baker Mayfield effect. You play through injury, and they never give you credit for it.
Yeah, definitely. But if you're out there on the pitch, then you're not injured in my eyes. But I know you are. But in terms of your production.
But when you're evaluating a guy if you're going to keep him next year or pay him or move on, you got to take that into account. And it doesn't seem like people ever do that. Yeah,
100%. The Washington Commanders have to pay Chase Young. Like, he's class. Oh, yeah. Like, he's unbelievable. He's terrifying.
Number 12, he's one of my favorite players in the league. Double X, Max Crosby. You got to tell me, Maddie, because I'm kind of a homer on this, so I don't know if I can separate myself. I thought he should have been a little higher.
I didn't even know he was under the age of 25. I thought he was way older than 25. I don't know why. I just saw his name and I was like, there is no way that Max Crosby is under the age of 25. He's better than Rashad Gary.
Yeah, and Rashad Gary's a beast, and I agree with you.
He's better than Jeffrey Simmons. at number 8.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not just being a homer thinking he could be a little higher on this list.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
I'm a big fan of
Max
him. And
Crosby.
did you ever hear the story on how he got his name with 2 X's?
No, go on.
The dude weighed like 11 pounds or some shit when he was born, so his mom put a double X on him. He was so big.
He's maxed out already.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the shining light of the Las Vegas Raiders defensive line. And the fact that I thought he was over 25 shows how much of a star I think he is.
Well,
and
you and I have said this before. The Vikings do it sometimes. I've seen the Cowboys do it sometimes. The Raiders saw that he was going to be a star and signed him early to pay him a little less because he's going to take that big money first early instead of letting him get to the end of his contract and getting killed. Brilliant move by the Raiders. Especially
when he's had a few injury problems and stuff as well. Like, he'll appreciate that money on the table early on, so he's more likely to take less. Rashad Gary, Green Bay Packers, yeah, probably about right. I think Crosby's better, but 11th's about right. I'm not too upset about that.
I'm not going to argue he should be 13 or 9. That's not the kind of argument I'm going to give.
Yeah.
He's slated right around and coming on for Darius Smith with his injury, playing in this defense another year. He might shoot up this list and even higher. I think that the Packers are very sold on him. That's why they didn't have a problem letting Za'Darius walk away. I think it's going to be good. I think he's probably right now where he should be, but he's probably a better player than where he's even rated. He's just got to show it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I still think I'd take Satan over him. I'm in love with Satan. Okay. I think this is around the Satan sweet spot, 9, 10, 11.
Just to play devil's advocate, you don't need a good corner if the quarterback's on his back.
Yeah, but a good corner makes it a lot easier to put the quarterback on his back.
Well, that's it. That's the difference between if you're getting coverage sacks, you're in trouble anyway, right? So it's that good mix. And I think that's what makes the NFL great, though. And I know you can manipulate it, but because of the salary cap, you can't have the best player at every position, where the Yankees used to just go out and buy every best baseball player. I think that's what makes the NFL great.
Yeah. So football teams, like soccer teams, can just buy whoever they want. But there are so many of them around the world that are so fucking rich that still, it doesn't even itself out as much as the NFL. But it means that no one team can have every best player on the planet. Whereas in baseball, you have the Red Sox and the Yankees that can just buy everyone. So they're just
there's a couple more teams now because of billionaires, but for the most part.
Yeah. DK Metcalf has no business being top 10 in this list.
This is one that I went back and forth on, right? Because I'm like, DK is a freaking monster. He is so fast. He's so strong. And he runs way better routes than any of us gave him credit for coming out of college. But I the more I sit on it, I definitely think he's way too high with the quarterbacks who are going to be throwing to him this year. And his offense didn't help him too much last year. So I'm going to have to agree with you. He's probably too high on this list.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain of his hands. I don't love the amount of separation that he gets. Like, I know he makes those 50-50. He's like Drake London, like when we were talking about the draft. Like Drake London turns 50-50 balls into 60-40. Well, DK Metcalf turns them into 75-25. Like, DK Metcalf's an absolute beast. I don't love the amount of separation that he gets. I don't love his temperament on the sideline. I don't love the toxicity that he seems to bring to his relationship with the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's more of a character problem for me, and he just didn't really show anything to say that he's able to separate that character from his play, because his play was shit. Like, he just wasn't as good. His best play of the past 2 years that I can remember, the play that sticks out for me, is a tackle that he made on an interception. I'm not like slagging that off. I'm not saying he needs to be off the top 25, but maybe in between somewhere like 15 and 20, like maybe a CD Lamb level of pick, because I think we're also at the peak of DK Metcalf. Like we've seen what he can do. I struggle to see him getting any better.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think I'm really glad he didn't get traded to the Packers. I think if he was with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, we'd see a different guy. But it's not that Russell Wilson was crap. Part of the reason I think we didn't see the best of him or that whole offense is because Russell Wilson was running for his life all of last year. But I agree with you. It seems like DK Metcalf has a bad attitude at times, and that really can bleed over to your teammates and on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. He gets good PFF grades, though. He gets good grades, over 80s, both of the last 2 seasons. I'm not saying he's like, and if he played for the Dallas Cowboys, I'd absolutely love him to be at the Cowboys. So that'd be a lot of fun to have that kind of player. But I just, because we collect those kind of personality issues in Dallas.
Well, I bet you would never have to worry about Mike McCarthy calling him the player like Bill Parcells did to T.O. But number 9, cornerback A.J. Tyrell, I'm absolutely fine with. I don't know how old J.C. Jackson is. I know he's over 25. I think he's only like 26, but maybe 27. J.C. Jackson, Jalen Ramsey. Why am I blanking on the Packers young corner? Alexander.
Zaire Alexander.
They're all probably better than him, but this kid is right up in there. He's top 5'8" corner in the league. I absolutely love him. I got absolutely no problem with A.J. Tyrell at number 9.
Yeah, the only problem I have with A.J. Tyrell at number 9 is that Patrick Surtain's all the way down at whatever number he's at. It's not, they should be somewhere near the same. And I think that's a more Patrick Surtain is too low than A.J. Tyrell's too high. Top cornerback.
Yeah, did you see his passer rating though? The passer rating throwing against him? He only gave up 200 yards or something all season. The dude's a monster. Yeah, his
passer rating is 47.5. He got a coverage rating of 90.1.
Yeah, just a monster.
Pretty mad. Like it's pretty crazy, especially on that Atlanta Falcons defense that isn't really doing much either. Like it is impressive.
All right, so number 8, Jeffrey Simmons, kind of caught me off guard. I had to really think about this one. I don't mind him in the top 25. I don't understand him in the top 10.
No, when you look at the players that like Max Crosby's better than Jeffrey Simmons. They put at his best, he's a top 5 interior defensive lineman in the NFL. So at his best, he's a top 5 interior defensive lineman in the NFL. And they've taken him 8th in the.
Yeah, because I'd put Gary, I'd put Crosby, I'd put Chase as defensive linemen above him.
Yeah, 100%. And there's 2 interior defensive linemen who are coming into the league this year that might be better than him. We'll see how they play. Obviously, you can't have people who haven't played at all on there. But Wyatt and Eagles, John Davis, might be better than him already. And they've got him 8th. I have no problem with him in the top 25. But when you see some of the players that we've gone through, like they're much better than him.
Him and Creed Humphreys head to head. I'm taking Creed Humphreys too.
Creed Humphreys is amazing. Not getting
He's going to stuff him at the line. So how is he above Creed Humphreys?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Jamar Chase, I got no problem with at number 7. The dude's a beast. You're in the top 10. It's no disrespect to be behind some of the people that you are behind on this list. I know there's there's one or two he might be arguing who he's behind, but I got no problem. Jamar Chase, I think it's respect to be at number 7, and I think that he deserves to be there.
Yeah, well, he'll probably argue with Justin Jefferson, won't he? And like I'd say they're probably
actually. I don't think that would be the argument because they were teammates. My argument for him would be you'd really rather have Tristan Wirfs over me, and you'd really rather have Nick.
Well, the Bengals. The Bengals wouldn't rather. The Bengals definitely wouldn't have Tristan Wirfs over him. They had the opportunity to take whatever offensive lineman they wanted, and they still took Jamar Chase.
Right. So
it's the running back at number 3. It's Jonathan Taylor, the running back at number 3 for me. Where you think in today's NFL, I have no problem with Jonathan Taylor, but in today's NFL, and all PFF talk about is how low value running backs should be. And then they've taken a running back at number 3 and left.
That's because
Jamar Chase at 7 is totally fine.
That shows how good Jonathan Taylor is at that running back position. I have no problem with Taylor at 3.
Mm-hmm. But I do it against the Jags. But yeah.
Did you really just blame the Carson Wentz game on?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. He had an amazing season, and then he came down to 2 games at the end of the. Who was it? Who did they have to beat? The Jags and somebody else. It's not very good either.
Well, the Jags was the last game of the season. That was the clown outfit game, right?
Yeah, so. Yeah. The Jags was the last game of this year. We'll get on to Jonathan Taylor, but there's just an insight into my. Jamar Chase is a huge difference maker. Pretty much won me the fantasy football league this year. Absolutely awesome player. Easily worth top 7. Could push into that top 5 if you really wanted him to. Micah Parsons is an absolute slap in the face. At number 6. At 6.
I don't think so. I think he's right probably where he should be.
Nah, Micah Parsons is better than Nick Bosa. Micah Parsons is.
I don't know. You got to do it for longer though to then say I have a problem with Bosa being number 1, but Bosa's
Nick Bosa is always injured. Always injured. I'm not sure. Micah Parsons is the best defensive player under the
drafting right now as the Cowboys, and you had the choice of Micah Parsons or Jamar Chase. You would pick Parsons over Chase.
As the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Yes, because Micah Parsons is a difference maker on the end of the ball that we have less talent on.
I think you're crazy because you win by putting more points up, but okay.
Yeah. So the argument that really sparked this off for me was between Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, right? And Shannon is obviously going to have to take, because they can't agree on anything, which is stupid because Shannon Sharp no way believes the words that are coming out of his mouth in this argument. But what Shannon Sharp says is because Micah Parsons is more versatile and spends more time in coverage than Nick Bosa, even though Micah Parsons could be better than Nick Bosa rushing the passer, that makes Micah Parsons less valuable because he's more versatile.
I agree.
Because he's more versatile, he's less valuable.
No, I think you're missing unless I'm missing it, but what I took that as saying is until you make this guy rush the passer 90% of the time, you are not maximizing his value, and they are maximizing Nick Bosa's value, and I would rather have a guy rush the passer all the time than if you're that talented, drop back in coverage.
I'm not 100%,
and that's where I would see they're not using him correctly.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that makes Micah Parsons rank lower than Nick Bosa, though. That's the thing, isn't it? It's
because
you're then blaming how he's in coverage on Micah Parsons rather than the coaching staff who put him there.
It's still the coaching staff's fault, but Micah Parsons is being screwed because of the way the coaching staff is using him. You get kind of
Oh, no, I get it, but he should be more valuable because he can do more jobs. He is more valuable. He should be rushing the passer 90% of the time, but Nick Bosa isn't getting into coverage out of the 10.
To that defense, sure, but I find it more valuable that Nick Bosa is going to get me 15 sacks, whereas if you would let Micah Parsons go, he'd have way more than 15 sacks, but what did he have, 10, 11?
I'm pretty sure I have more than that.
And then Bosa's quarterback pressures. If they were playing the same amount of snaps rushing the passer, I agree that Micah Parsons is way more valuable. But because of the way the Cowboys use him, I would argue that Shannon's right that Nick Bosa is more valuable because sacks mean way more than coverage.
Yeah, Micah Parsons has 13 sacks.
Right.
So he has
if you
2
let
less.
him go the whole time, he's going to have way more. But they don't.
Yeah.
And I think they devalue him by putting him in coverage. Like they take away his value. And
Yeah,
I know. Not on him.
I understand the point of that, but that doesn't mean that Micah Parsons as a player is less valuable. That means the coaching staff are not maximizing his value. That's very different.
Which makes him less valuable in the defense. So Micah Parsons, better player, would take him in a heartbeat. But the way they're using him, he's less valuable than Nick Bosa because they're letting Nick Bosa go after the quarterback. They're not always letting Micah Parsons go after the quarterback. And there's a million guys in this league who can cover for 4 seconds.
Yeah, I think what we've come to is a disagreement on how we're evaluating the best players under 25. If you can do multiple jobs, it's up to the coaching staff to max out your valuable, but you are more valuable than Nick Bosa. Plus, Nick Bosa is always injured. Plus, Micah Parsons only had 1 season and only got 2 less sacks.
Do you agree Aaron Donald's the best player in football? Defensive player.
Yeah.
Or just tell me who you think the best defensive player outside of Micah Parsons.
No, Aaron Donald. Yeah.
So now, if I have Aaron Donald dropping back in coverage 85% of the time, you're going to think he's more valuable than Nick Bosa?
No. Aaron Donald is a better pass rusher than Micah Parsons, though. Whereas Micah Parsons is a better pass rusher than Nick Bosa, but can also get into coverage.
I think Micah Parsons would be the best pass rusher in the NFL if they let him go. And I think that's where the Cowboys are devaluing his worth by the way they use him. On another team, I think his value skyrockets, I think is the argument of what they're making. I'm not disagreeing completely. I'm just playing a little bit of where I'm seeing the argument is that I almost agree that the Cowboys, the way they use him is less valuable than the way Nick Bosa uses them, which is, to your point, it's the coaching, but it still ends up screwing Bosa because you let him go, the guy has 20 sacks.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll work on it this season. I'm sure they'll find a way. It was the 49ers game was what really
don't worry, Sean Payton's going to be your coach next year.
Hopefully.
1 more year of McCarthy, and it's Sean Payton. I see that coming.
But the 49ers game is what really shows the issue with how the Dallas Cowboys use Micah Parsons because they had him marking Deebo Samuels the entire game. So he doesn't get a QB hit or QB pressure or a sack or anything. Whereas if you just sent him running at Jimmy Garoppolo a couple of times before he can get the ball to Deebo, then, But I just think he's quite a lot better than Nick Bosa, to be perfectly honest. When you take into account Nick Bosa's injuries as well.
Well, I agree as a player, he's better. I was just saying I think the Cowboys do him a disservice about the way they play him. So with Justin Jefferson at number 5, I got no problem with this because to me, I've been thinking about this a lot in the offseason. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, best receivers in football right now. Devontae Adams is still a beast, top 5. But I think these young guys surpassed them. And I think the reason Justin Jefferson is above Chase is just he's got another year that he proved that he did multiple years. That is not to take away from what Jamar Chase is doing. I got no problem with Justin Jefferson at number 5 because, like I said, I think him, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase in no order are the 3 best receivers in football right now.
Yep, can't disagree with that. I just tried to go through wide receivers just there and can't think of many other people above them. DeAndre Hopkins, maybe, but he's been injured. Don't really know.
Now suspended.
Haven't seen them. Yep, suspended and injured. Doesn't make AJ Brown.
Okay.
Might get into that conversation. But
yeah. Definitely.
We're in a different level of wide receiver at the minute as well, where wide receiver wins games. And people are like, oh, it's because it's become a more passing league. Yeah, like the rules have changed a little to make it a more passing league. But also, these guys can run 4.2 and it's like 6 foot odd, like 4.3, 6 foot odd. what's a cornerback meant to do with that? And the cornerbacks, it's not, they can run 4-4. Like it's just not like there's not many guys that have got as good a hands as Justin Jefferson in this league.
No, and like these athletic, these guys can run, they can jump, the body control is out of this world. It's because, like we were talking about, they've been playing 7-on-7 since they were 7 years old. They're like playing all year round now. It's amazing. And they used to throw the best athlete on the team at quarterback when you're young. Now it seems like a lot of these guys are so athletic. You just got amazing athletes all over the field in some of these schools. It's really cool to watch, and the receivers are going to be something to keep your eye on. I think this is not going to be a hard and fast rule, but you're going to see a lot of teams who have high-paid quarterbacks going with young receivers, young quarterbacks paying these receivers. It's going to be a weird NFL coming up.
I think we just need to admit that, oh my God, we get better at producing athletes and wide receivers over time because we get better at knowing what works. And as the game becomes more professional, as there's more money plowed into it, obviously the players are going to get better. It's like when I'm sorry, but it's basketball that really gets me with this kind of stuff. When you watch like the discussion between who was it who got shunned from the top 75 of all time, like Dame Lillard or something got shunned from the top 75 of all time, and they put some player from 1950 ahead of him where they weren't shooting threes and nobody could dunk and everybody was white, and it was just
arguments over generational lines.
Yeah.
I hate them. Like, stop arguing who was better, Kobe, MJ, or LeBron. They all played at different times. Just stop.
Yeah. It's not the same because we're better at the sport. The sport is better than it was in 1980. But that doesn't mean that the players in 1980 wouldn't be better than the players today. But the players today are better than the people in 1980.
And they're running 4.3s. Nobody there's so many guys in the NFL that run 4.3 and 4.4. They could have never seen that in the late even the late 90s.
Yeah, but if you took those players from the late 90s, if you took those players and you taught them how to run the way that they teach these guys how to run now, if you give them the technology, the diet, all of that kind of stuff, they would be able to do that. So it's a bit of a weird comparison, but wide receiver now is incredibly important, and that's why you stick Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, those guys up in the top echelons. How old's Deebo Samuels? He must be older than 25.
Yeah, or he'd be on this list if he wasn't.
Yeah, must be 26.
And if he's not, it's a travesty that he's not on this list.
I'm going to check. I'm about to have a breakdown.
Tristan Wirf at number 4, I really don't have a problem with. Offensive tackles are important. You can argue who your favorite under 25. If you like Slater better, I'm not going to argue with you. I think both of these dudes are really good, and Tristan's got a ring. That's got to count for something, right?
Yeah, that's definitely. And he's been doing it for longer. He's Tom Brady's right-hand man. He's one of the leaders on that offensive line that carried them to a Super Bowl. He's really, really good. Like he is just incredible. He's going to be one of the best offensive linemen in this league for a very long time to come. It's the same with Rashawn Slater. I'm not sure how those two have ended up this far apart. I think that's more of the issue with it rather than where either of them are picked. You could put either of them next to each other in either spot, but it makes a weird evaluation. It makes weird reading this list when you've got Tristan Wirfs and Rashawn Slater on that far apart. You've got them, 10 slots apart, even though they play the same position.
I guess it's the old saying, it don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ring.
That could be it. Deebo Samuels is 26 years old.
I need more. We go on this list. I need criteria. Like, what did they use? Because now that I'm thinking about it, if you're asking me which one of these guys would I take moving forward, or which guy is better player in the NFL right now, I would actually say Jonathan Taylor's more accomplished and a better player than Justin Herbert, but I would take Justin Herbert because he's a quarterback. He's shown a ton. His upside is huge. But the more I think about this, You're talking about the youngest player to ever reach 2,000 scrimmage yards in the NFL, most consecutive 100 rushing or yard rushing games, 1,800 rushing yards, and 366 receiving yards just in 2021. He's 22 years old, and he's had 5 yards 5 yards of play and 5.5, which is unheard of for a running back. So, like, production wise, he's given his team more. But in who do I want to build a franchise around, I would definitely take the quarterback. And Justin Herbert, to me, is the best young quarterback in the NFL right now. So what's the criteria? That's what I needed to know. And they didn't give it to us, Maddie. They didn't give it to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they'll have to explain it on their podcast, PFF Daily or PFF Overtime, whichever you guys want to listen to. They're really good listens to. I really enjoy their podcasts. And it's an interesting way of thinking about the NFL. And Collinsworth is kind of behind it as well. They're awesome.
Yeah, he started the whole thing. He owns it. He was just on Pat McAfee this week.
Yeah, and what I love is I love listening to the talking heads and people like Dan Orlovsky and Chris Sims who do a lot of their own eye and their own feel, and then comparing those with PFF who do it off stats, value, that kind of stuff. I really enjoy that. The weird thing for me about having Jonathan Taylor this high, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be this high, because he's probably the best running back in the NFL, outside of maybe Derrick Henry. And you'd have to argue both ways on that one. And Christian McCaffrey, if he's not injured as well. And maybe Devin Cook. But he's in the top 5 running backs, at least, in the NFL. He's also one of the youngest to do all of those things. He's also incredibly acclaimed. But in today's NFL, they don't draft running backs. So if you're doing a draft, you're just starting from the draft. They don't draft running backs until the end of the first, start of the second. And if you do draft one in the first, then you get absolutely tanked in the grading system. And because of the way the NFL is,
it's the easiest position to transition from college, so they don't waste high draft picks on them. But you watch, after next year, this kid's going to get paid.
Yeah, it's just the issue of, because of the way that the NFL is, he's got all of these accolades, but he wasn't able to get the Colts over the line into the playoffs. Whereas if they had Justin Herbert, they would have had more.
Herbert couldn't get the Chargers to the promised land.
Yeah, the Chargers are in a much tougher division than the Colts. Let's be real.
So you're saying that it's Jonathan Taylor's fault the Colts didn't get there, but it's not Justin Herbert's fault the Chargers didn't get there.
No. The Colts were in a position to win their division because of Jonathan Taylor. I'm not railing the whole season on Jonathan Taylor, but just shows the value of the position a little bit, that the reason that they lost was because they have Carson Wentz at quarterback. Whereas if they had Justin Herbert at quarterback, they probably would have got over the line. Justin Herbert has to play the Kansas City Chiefs twice, the Denver Broncos, who weren't amazing last season at all, twice, and he has to play the Raiders, who seem to have a really good season, twice as well. And yeah, I'm just saying,
you're making excuses for Justin Herbert, and you're using the same excuse against Jonathan Taylor.
It's because he's a quarterback. It's because he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks touch the ball more often. It's quarterback-driven league. It just is. And I'm not saying rail Jonathan Taylor miles down.
But this is the first time in history of a football discussion somebody's blamed the running back for the loss, but not the quarterback, getting the quarterback a pass.
Oh, it's not. No, it's not. If you listen to every talking head show, every single one, they do it all the time because they have to argue with each other. So that's fine.
Everybody always blames the quarterback, Matty, but now all of a sudden it's not Justin Herbert's fault they didn't do better.
Oh no, I'm blaming the quarterback in the Indianapolis Colts situation as well. Like, Carson Wentz was the reason that they are. Wasn't Jonathan Taylor injured towards the end of the season as well? I'm seeming to remember. If he stays healthy.
I remember, but
yeah.
I would argue if the Colts had, or if the Chargers had Taylor over Austin Eckler, they make the playoffs.
Austin Eckler was one of the best, got some of the best production in the NFL last season.
And Jonathan Taylor's was even better.
Yeah.
So then he would have took the pressure off of the quarterback that let him down.
Yeah, I think maybe if the Chargers were able to actually... I don't know what it is with the Chargers. I just think they're just an inherently can't get over the line organization, maybe.
There is something weird about, I don't care how good your team or your coaches are, bad ownership leaks down in through the fabric of everything.
100%.
And I think that's the Chargers' fault. I think it's bad ownership.
100%. And Justin Herbert is one of the best, is one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL.
This is going to sound stupid. I would take Justin Herbert over Burrow. So I'm not arguing that Justin Herbert's bad. I was just saying that as of production, I think Jonathan Taylor's proved more.
Yeah.
I know most people would take Burrow, but when I watch them two play, they're both great. They're both electric, but I just love the way Justin Herbert plays that game. There is something about him that I think is transparent or transcendent and transcendently special. Like, I think he is going to be one of those players when it's said and done that we're talking about with maybe Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Justin Herbert has thrown for 9,000 yards in his 2 seasons in the NFL. That's pretty awesome numbers. Remember, the first season, there was no offensive line either, and he threw for 4,000 yards. He's also thrown 67 touchdowns and only has 25 interceptions.
So, but if you look, a lot of quarterbacks throw 4,000 yards. How many running backs get 2,000 yards from the scrimmage?
No, you're right. The quarterback is more important than the running back, though. Like, he is just more important. There's just no way that there's no way that you can't.
Right. So that's my argument. It's more important. So Justin Herbert deserves more blame for the losses of the Chargers than Jonathan Taylor should take blame for the Colts, because he had them on the edge of going to the playoffs with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm checking the Chargers record and comparing it to the Colts. Chargers record. God, we've been rubbish today. Oh, they went 9-8. I imagine the Colts record.
I think they went 10-7, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think they might have gone 10-7 as well. This shouldn't be this hard to find. Why was the Chargers so easy to find and the Colts is better? That's the difference with being in LA.
Right? You're on the top.
You know how to use the internet a lot better. What is going on?
I'm just saying, I think the quarterback takes more of the blame for a loss than the running back. And I think Jonathan Taylor carried a team with an awful quarterback farther.
They both went 9-8. Like
okay.
I was thinking, they must have been very similar. They both went 9-8, and the Colts should have had 4 wins, a 4-win head start. But then the Chargers also had to play.
No, not Jonathan Taylor.
Oh no, yeah. Do you know what we're doing here? We're arguing over split hairs of 2 absolutely.
Yeah, no, I absolutely know it. That's why I'm laughing this whole time. Yeah.
When what we really should be saying is how Nick Bosa is no way the best player under 25.
Yeah, I thought we established that. So,
yeah.
Just
so everybody knows, Nick Bosa isn't in the top 5 of my list.
And then
I think he's 6th. I think I move everybody up and put Nick Bosa's slot straight in at 6.
Well, then next year we'll have a lot of these rookies on this top list, so it'll be interesting to see who ages out of this list, who just gets bumped for production, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which 22-year-olds are going to stay on the list? Will Trevor Lawrence be there next season? Will Kyle Pitts be on the list next season? You know? It's interesting to see.
Will Malik Willis take that job from Ryan Tannehill? Well, that's because there's a report leaked, not that he said it, but one of his friends had leaked that after Tannehill said he won't mentor him, Malik looked at his buddy and said, "Now I'm coming for your job."
Yeah, good luck.
Well, it doesn't matter. I like that attitude. I like that.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
fire that kid up. If he's meant to be, it's great for the Chargers. If he's not, then you still got Ryan Tannehill.
Me too. But there'll be no starting rookie quarterbacks in week 1 this year. Not a single one. Mitch Trubisky will start over Kenny Pickett in Pittsburgh.
Maybe. That's the one I was going to say. There is a shot for Pickett because they've watched him because their practice facilities are connected, literally,
Yep.
Pitt and the Steelers, so they've seen him. And it depends on, like, if they come out and they're even in training camp, it always goes to the first-round draft pick. So
yeah, 100%.
That's the
I
only
just don't
place,
think it will
though,
be.
that maybe,
Yeah.
outside of
maybe.
injury, that a rookie quarterback's playing.
Yeah, has Matt Corral got an injury issue, or is he able to play?
No,
that
he
might
is.
be. I think he's got a better chance. Matt Corral's got the best chance of starting week 1.
Yeah, now that you say that, I was thinking you could see Atlanta, maybe. You could see maybe Carolina with a rookie quarterback, and you could see maybe in Pittsburgh. So everybody's acting like Marcus Mariota is the next coming of something. And if your rookie quarterback is even close to what Mariota is, you just play him.
Yeah, all I would say is Ritter's good qualities are his brain for the NFL and his leadership. But Marcus
Mariota's
Mariota is
injured by week 5.
Sorry?
Mariota's injured by week 5.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not. Desmond Ritter is probably in Atlanta by week 4, but he's not starting. Desmond Ritter is not starting in Atlanta week 1. Matt Corral may start because of the impatience of the owner, but if they know what's good for them, they'll just sacrifice Sam Darnold for another year.
And I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I do remember sitting back and everybody saying, Matt Flynn's the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. Did you see what they paid him? He's the Seahawks starting quarterback. In week 1, Russell Wilson, 3rd-round draft pick, starting for the Seattle Seahawks. So, I mean, it does happen. Crazier shit has happened, right?
Something like that would have to happen for Malik Willis to start over Ryan Tannehill.
And
Malik Willis is the one that might do that kind of Russell Wilson thing because of his upside.
I meant he might take the job throughout the year. I didn't mean start week 1.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think he did. That would be fucking crazy. But yeah.
Right.
Kenny Pickett, I don't see Kenny Pickett starting over Mitch Trubisky. Because why not just sacrifice? Like, I don't know. If you think you're going to win.
You believe Peyton Manning is a firm believer of you start right away and take your lumps. But the Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes has shown other ways. It just depends what your philosophy is on a rookie quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger played as a rookie.
I don't mind them playing as a rookie, but just I would sacrifice your quarterback. Like if you're Carolina and you've already decided you're moving off Sam Darnold and you know you're probably not going to win or make the playoffs this year. Like if Carolina is realistic, they'll go, yeah, because we've got Tampa in our division, we're not going to win the division. New Orleans is starting to look better. We probably won't get into the playoffs this year. If you take that mentality, then sacrifice Sam Darnold for 4 or 5 games and then see what Matt Corral's got. Like, rather than just, like, play them in their rookie season. Because otherwise you end up like Jordan Love, who has probably got so many cobwebs, he doesn't actually know how to play football anymore.
Yeah, and I don't know. I play my 4th string receiver at quarterback before I play Sam Darnold, but that's just me.
I know, but if you don't think you're going to win, then you may as well sacrifice Sam Darnold. I don't dislike Sam Darnold. I like him a lot less after this season.
On the opposite side of the coin, though, if you know you're not going to win, shouldn't you just get him in there, let him learn, and take his lumps like they did with Justin Fields?
Yeah. Yeah, the issue is then you get a David Carr situation then where they've taken so many fucking lumps that they're screwed. Like,
okay, fair enough. But Carolina's offensive line is a little bit better than that. But yes, I don't want my young quarterback getting killed. That was my fear with Davis Mills in the Texans. I thought they were going to get him murdered.
Do you want to hear a 23-year-old that isn't on this list?
Who's that?
Jalen Hurts. Quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles managed to get them to a playoff. It's
But
big
Burns
play
is on that list.
potential. And yeah, Burns is on that list.
All right, fair enough.
I
I really don't know how they're grading it because Jalen's got a ton of potential. We just don't know if he'll ever reach it.
They hate Jalen Hurts. PFF hate him.
And he plays the most important position.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts should be in the top 25. Jalen Hurts and Mac Jones are Michigan, and they play the two top positions in.
Yeah, how is Mac Jones not in there?
Yeah. I'm not the biggest believer in Mac Jones either, but there's just some players in there that just play some positions where you're thinking, oh, that's
if you just take last year, who are you putting in there? Trevor Lawrence or Mac Jones?
It depends on what they're grading it on again, because we know that Trevor Lawrence is probably could be better than Mac Jones in terms of potential.
I watched Mac Jones win, what, 9 games?
I've watched Mac Jones, and it's not like the Patriots had more weapons than the Jaguars, you know? Like, there's still that shit offense that Tom Brady had to run away from his ancestral home for.
Yeah, that makes me wonder even more what their criteria was, but I don't know. You guys let us know what you think. Are we missing any under 25 guys that should be on that list that Maddie and I didn't think about too? Let us know about that.
I can't think of anybody else. I feel like the Chargers are really young. Asante Samuel. I love that guy, but no.
They are really young, but I think that if you went average age after this free agency, they probably jumped up a lot because of a lot of the free agents. But yeah, mostly across the board, they're young.
Yeah. There's definitely some players that are missing off that list. I'm sorry, Eddie Burns has no business being anywhere near it.
Yeah. Like we said, solid player, solid. Like going to be in the league for 10 years if he plays like that. But
yeah, 100%. But Micah Parsons is on that list, and he's got 13 sacks, and he's not being told to rush the passer at all. You know, it's just not sure. Jalen Hurts is better than him. I'd take Jalen Hurts over Eddie Burns. I'd take him over Quentin Williams as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, well done, PFF. Thank you for giving us some content to talk about. Cheers.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with our grades, and we'll talk more NFL news as it happens. And we'll probably have to talk about this next time. Jarvis Landry going back home. All right, guys.
Yeah, Tyron Matthew as well.
Yeah.
All the all the Louisiana boys getting back together. Will Odell Beckham end up in New Orleans? Who knows?
Oh, there's a teaser. One world, one love. Deuces.
Cheerio.